Greetings! In this video we will create a 2x4 brick. This will be a simple version that doesn't have the bottom interior modeled, the cylinders and the inverted peg. We'll begin by just creating a simple version. But you'll be able to use this simple version in upcoming projects because when we stack the bricks, of course the viewer wouldn't see the bottom. And this is a lighter load on your processor than having this more complex version stacked up. That is, of course, if the viewer is not going to see the bottom. Let's get started. We'll begin with a polygonal cylinder. I'll hit the F key to get in there nice and tight. And we'll open the inputs in the channel box. And my subdivision axis is 8. We want 8 axis divisions. Our height is 0.8. That's the height of the peg. And because we shortened that, we need to raise it up so that it's sitting on the ground plane with a translate Y of 0.4. I'll right click now and we're going to delete the bottom faces. I'm holding the shift key and I'm just selecting all of the bottom faces. We'll hit the 4 key and we can see that we don't have anything else selected. If we come back to 5 and I'll hit the delete, you can see that we've deleted the bottom faces of this cylinder. I'm now going to choose edge, right click and choose edge, and we'll double click that bottom edge. Make sure you have that selection. We'll come into the modeling toolkit and we'll hit extrude, and on our local translate Z we can either grab the blue arrow or drive it here by scrubbing left and right, and you just want to pull it up a little bit, don't go beyond 1. That is because we're going to jump into the top view, and I'll hit the F key so we get in there nice and tight. And we're going to manually create a square. We're going to grab this vertex, move tool, and I'll hold down the X key middle mouse button. Now, when you hold down the X key and the middle mouse button, you want to click on what you're snapping to. If you come and select and try to drag, you might accidentally hit one of the arrows. Now I'm constrained, and you can see if I go to try and snap here, I'm constrained on the X. I want to be able to freely move on both the X and the Z. I can come back and click in the middle, and you can see now that it's red and blue. And it allows me to click in any direction, but I'm holding the X key middle mouse button. So we're snapping to a grid in both the X and the Z direction. It's always a better idea to click on what you're snapping to. Try not to drag what you're snapping. Click on what you're snapping to. That was X key middle mouse button with our red and blue arrows available to us. Snap the vertex into this square shape. If we come back to the perspective view and we'll hit the 5 key here. If I hit the 3 key, remember that 1 is the true surface and 3 is the smooth preview. If I hit the smooth preview, it's too soft. Our peg should be sharp in the vertical position. So we'll achieve that by beveling this top edge, 4 key to let you see that, and shift double click this edge. So those are the 2 edges we have selected, and we'll hit bevel, and the fraction is 0.2 and the segments are 2. Now when we hit the 3 key, we have a nice hard edge on the vertical, but we still have the circular peg shape from this top view. Now you want to save this shape. Save it and then save as, so that you can open this and create any number, 2x4 or 2x2, or even create an entire ground plane of these pegs. So this is a starting point for any size, and I'll show you right now how to create a 2x4 version of the brick. But you can apply what we're learning here to any size brick, and you can create any size brick that you need for your project. I'm going to jump into the top view and pull out a little bit, and if we look down here at the axis, right, this is positive Z, positive X, negative X. So let's duplicate, we'll go in the negative Z and then the negative X, and we'll create our brick in this quadrant here. I'm going to go to Edit, Duplicate Special dialog box. And out of good habit, you always want to hit Edit Reset Settings so that some negative or decimal that you don't see in there doesn't affect your duplication. So we're starting from scratch, Reset Settings. I need 3 additional copies, and we said we wanted to go in this direction. So that's the translate X, Y, Z, and it was negative. So I'll say -4. We'll hit duplicate special. And you can see if you look over here in the outliner, cylinder 1, 2, 3, and 4, there they are. So we'll select those. We'll come back to the duplicate special. We'll hit edit reset. And our translate in this case is -4 on the X. And we only need one additional duplicate. So we'll hit that. And now we've got cylinders 1 through 8 sitting here. They're all independent though, as you can see, and so we need to combine them and then attach the vertexes. So in the object mode, we'll grab all 8 and we'll come into the modeling toolkit and hit combine. Now, even though we've combined them, I'm going to jump into the perspective view just to show you this. The vertexes have not been merged together. They are still separate. So these are a singular mesh, but the vertexes are just sitting on top. And in fact, to better illustrate that, we're going to get rid of these transform nodes so you can see this. We'll come to Edit, Delete All by Type History. Because there's nothing else in the scene besides our brick, we'll say Delete All by Type History. And so now we're left with Polycylinder 9. And you can see that that's a single mesh, but you can have a single mesh with vertexes sitting on top of each other. Our mesh can have a gap, but it can also have vertexes sitting on top of one another. So it looks like a continuous surface, right? But when we hit the 3 key, we can see, oh, those are actually separate, even though it's under a single mesh. So we'll weld those together. We'll come and choose vertex. Unfortunately, we don't have to make individual selections. We can just draw a bounding box around the whole thing. And then come to Edit Mesh, Merge. Edit Mesh, Merge. And only those vertexes that were sitting on top of each other have been welded together. And you can see they're singular now. That's singular. And if we hit the 3 key, now the outer edge is rounded, but we see that this is truly a singular welded shape. Okay, let's extrude now this edge. We'll stay in the perspective view. We'll right click and choose edge, and then I'm going to double click. So maybe a little bit easier to see in the wireframe. We've got that exterior edge. Once again, I just right clicked, double click the edge, and we'll hit extrude. And in this case, we're going in the -Z, and we're going to go -4.8. And that'll give us the height for our brick that we're after. So 4.8, and that's relative to the height of the peg. Now, for the interior, if we look under here, right, it's completely blank. So we do want to finish this, and that'll be the starting point for the next projects as well. So we'll create the interior cube, and we'll do that separately. That'll make it a little bit easier. So let's get back, and we're going to create a polygonal plane. That will be our starting point. And we'll use our move tool. It's sitting here at the origin, and I'm just going to move it out here. The distance really doesn't matter, just moving it out of the way. And we want it to have the same number. Let's jump into the top view, and we'll hide the grid, and I'll turn on wireframe so that we can count the edges. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We want the same thing on our new underside. So we'll come to the channel box. I'm switching back to object mode just to make sure I have only the plane selected. I'll come to inputs, polyplane, and we said we wanted 4 and 8. So now we've matched the number of edges. Now we need to match the size. So we'll come to scale X, and this is going to be 8, and the scale Z is going to be 16. And so now we've got a plane that is exactly the same size. And if I move that over there and sit it right on top, you can see it's exactly the same size in both directions. Okay, now if you look at the toy bricks, this interior isn't the same size. It's a fraction. So rather than multiply 0.8 and 0.9 by our X and Z values, we'll come up to Modify, Freeze Transformations. And that just makes the current position our new default. And here we can come to the scale X and make it 0.8 and then make the scale Z 0.9. And if I put this over here, you can see that this is the proper size. It was easier just to put in the 0.8 and 0.9 rather than multiply 8 and 16, 0.8 by 8 and 0.9 by 16. Okay, now we'll come into the side view and we'll calculate how far down this should be. Well, we're not calculating, I'm going to demonstrate that it's negative 0.8. So negative 0.8 on the translate Y to move this down. And that is the length between the interior and the exterior tops. We'll come back over here, and I don't even have to do this in. We can pull this out. It might make it easier to view. So we've scaled that. We know that it's the proper size. The other thing that we want to do, we're going to be looking underneath. So we want this actually facing outwards, whereas here is the top. You could flip it, or we can just come to Mesh, Display, Reverse. So now from this view, it's blank, but if you come to the bottom, and that's what we want to see. So we'll grab the exterior edge, and just as we extruded this, we'll extrude this one. But remember, we moved it down 0.8, so that means we only have to extrude it. This would be positive 4. So positive 4. And if you look here, right, that's 4 units. We'd already moved down 0.8, and so now that matches that distance. You can see here that they are the same distance, same height, I should say. So now we can move this over. We'll turn on the grid so that I can grid snap this over and just put it right in the middle if you want to hit the 4 key to be able to see that. And if we look here, we can see that it's sitting exactly in the same place. And just one more step, we want to bridge these two together. Before we can bridge, we have to combine. And let's do that. We'll pick both in the object mode, and we'll hit combine. And then we're going to bridge each set of edges. So I'm going to click this edge, shift double click. I'm still holding the shift key, shift click, shift double click. Make sure you've got the right edges selected. And then we can just hit bridge, and we've got a new set of faces. Let's do the bottom. We'll hit this edge, shift double click, shift click, shift double click, and we'll hit bridge. If you make a mistake, just hit undo and redo it. Reselect it. We'll click this edge, shift double click, shift click, shift double click, bridge, and click the edge, shift double click, shift click, shift double click. Check that selection, hit bridge, and we've got our brick. But you'll recall that we're in the one mode, and we'll ultimately want to subdivide this, right? Because our pegs aren't perfectly circular. So we know we have to smooth that once to get the circular peg, but that leaves our outer edge soft, and that doesn't look like the toy brick that we're after. So we'll bevel all of the exterior corner edges. And this can be a trick to selecting, but if you make a mistake, just reselect. We'll double click, shift double click. If I hit the 4 key, maybe it's easier to see, maybe not. Double click, shift double click. I'm shift double clicking all the way around. And so I've got the top edge, right? You can at least see there. And we have to go all the way around and pick the edges. So I'm shift clicking, shift click, shift click, shift click. We'll turn to the bottom and get this diagonal, shift click, holding the shift key and making my selections. We'll get this interior edge running up. We'll get it in all 4 corners. We want this bottom edge. I shift double click that, shift double click this, and then shift double click the interior top. And we have to do that 4 times, shift double clicking all the way around. So if we hit the 4 key, take a look at that. I'll dolly around kind of slow, and you can see we've got all of the edges selected, everything that we want to remain hard. And if you've missed something, as soon as you bevel it and hit the 3 key, you'll be able to see if you missed anything. And it looks to me like I got it all. So we'll come to bevel, and we want our fraction 0.2 and our segments 2. And if we hit the 3 key, we can see that it remains nice and sharp. And as you dolly around to check it, if you missed anything, it would be soft. And in that case, you would just hit undo and remake your selection. So here is our 2x4 simple brick, or we might say 2x4 stackable brick. Very good. Questions in the discussions. Have a good one. Greetings. In this video, we will complete the rest of our standard bricks, our 1x1, 1x2, 2x2, 2x3. We'll use the same workflow that we used for our 2x4 brick. The difference is the interior top plate size and how we input those values. So I've got some examples here. And let's look at the 2x2 first. So our edges, 1, 2, 3, 4 edges and 4 edges. And if we look at this in the top view with the grid on, we can see that the size is 8 by 8. And then we reduced that by 0.8. If you look here in the inputs, for our new interior top, the subdivisions width and height are 4, which match the top plate. The height and the width are 8, which was the original size, and then we reduced it by 0.8 and 0.8. If we look here at the 1x2, the edges are 4 and 2, the original size was 8 and 4, and then our X and Z are 0.8 and 0.6. Our one plate, our 1x1, has 2 edges by 2 edges. The original size was 4x4, and then we reduced it 0.6 and 0.6. And if we look at our 2x3, our number of edges, right, 4 edges and 6 edges. The original size was 12 and 8, and in this case, 0.8 on the X and 0.867 on the Z. And then you'll recall from the first half of the video that our 2x4 is 4 and 8, the number of edges or divisions, and then the original size was 8 by 16, and we used 0.8 on the X and 0.9 on the Z. If you look in the top view, you can see that they're all equal distance. Those interior plates are all equal distance. If we select these here and then look in the top view. Okay, so let me walk through that with you. We'll start with our original peg. And if you come in here and take a look, and your pivot is probably sitting in the middle, the first thing we want to do is place that on the bottom. It will minimize any mistakes that we might make. You know that changing the pivot point, we can tap the D key. We want to constrain on the Y, so I'll grab that green arrow. The green arrow, Y translate, is now yellow, which means we're constrained. I'll hold down the X key and then middle mouse button snap to the origin grid, and then tap the D key to get out of that. Let me review that real quick. Modify center pivot. So this is probably where your pivot is at the moment. We'll tap the D key. We'll click on the green arrow, making it yellow. We'll drag it up, hold down the X key, middle mouse button, snap, then tap the D key to get out of that. We have the pivot at the bottom. You can resave this, or with it selected in object mode, you can come to File, Export Selection, and let this peg be the starting point for all of your bricks. Okay, let's count first, just so that we're on the same page. 1 edge, 2 edge, 1 edge, 2 edge. So our subdivisions or edges are 2 by 2. And then how many units? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 2 by 2 subdivisions, 4 by 4 height and width. So we'll create our new plane, hit the 4 key. The default is 10 and 10, and so we're going to change that to 2 by 2. We've matched the edges. Now we'll match the size, 4 by 4. And then now we'll put in our fraction, 0.6 by 0.6. And so this gives us the exact offset size that we need it to be. And then we'll drive it down, -0.8. And if we look here, right? We've got that facing the wrong direction. So with our new bottom plate selected, we'll say Mesh Display Reverse. And now we see from the top and we'll see from the interior. And we've got those complete, and we'll do all of this section at the same time. Now, we're working Z forward, and so we'll slide this in the positive X direction just to get it out of the way. If you want to re-import your peg, you could just grab this peg and duplicate it. And so I've duplicated that peg, edit duplicate, or Command D on the keyboard. And I'm going to grid snap it 2 units in the positive X direction. So it'll be sitting next to its partner peg here, if you will. We'll come up to edit duplicate, and then we'll grid snap that over. We have them sitting here, and we need to combine them. We'll hit combine. You know that the vertex is sitting in the same place, but they are not welded together. So we want to weld those all together. We'll just draw a bounding box around the hole, all of the vertexes. And the first time we go to hit merge, let's make sure it's in the default. So come and hit reset settings. 0.01 means that only the vertexes that are sitting on top of each other will be welded. So we'll hit merge, and then we can test that, verify that. So that's been welded, that's welded, and the middle one is welded. So we're good to go on this. Let's count. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 edges on the positive Z. We've got 2 edges on the X. We've got 8 units and 4 units. So we'll create our new plane, right? Comes in 10 by 10. And so we'll make that 4 by 2, the number of edges. And the width is 8, and our height is 4. So that matches, right? Matches the size, matches the number of edges. And then we'll reduce. So the scale X, whenever we have 2 pegs, is going to be 0.8. And then since we have just 1 peg, right? When it was just 1, it was 0.6. So now this is the proper offset, exact offset as we have for this one here. We'll go ahead and complete our thought. We'll go negative 0.8, and we know that we need to reverse that bottom. And so here is the starting point for our 1 by 2. We'll slide that over. Duplicate, Command D. I'm going to grid snap this, and I'm going to put it in the lower quadrant. We're making the 2 by 2. We'll duplicate, grid snap over. I'll grab both, Command D, duplicate. Now, if I hold the X key, they both snap to the same position. So we'll tap the Z arrow, hold down the X key, and now when I snap, they are limited to that Z, so they don't cross over on the X. So here's our 2 by 2 sitting here is the middle of the origin, or the origin. We'll grab them, we'll come here, we'll hit combine, and then we'll grab all the vertexes. And just a reminder, if it's 0.01, then only the vertexes that are sitting on top of each other will be affected. So as we progress, let's count. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 edges, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we've got 8 units by 8 units. So we'll create our new plane, and in the inputs we'll match that, right? 4 by 4 in terms of the edges, subdivisions, 8 by 8 in terms of the unit measurement, and then this will be 0.8 and 0.8, right? Whenever we have 2 pegs, it's 0.8. And if we hit the 4 key, we can see that that is exactly right. We'll drive this down, negative 0.8, and we know if we go into shaded that we need to reverse this mesh display reverse. All right, we'll slide this out, and you're probably getting the hang of it by now, but let's do a couple more, the remaining 2. We'll duplicate this. I'm going to grid snap that down into the quadrant, duplicate it, grid snap it over, grab them both, duplicate, tap the Z arrow, so now I'm constrained, so I can grid snap. They stay even on the X, and we'll duplicate one more. My Z is still active, so I don't have to reactivate it. X key, middle mouse button, and we have our 2 by 3. Let's combine. We'll grab all the vertexes and we will weld or merge. And then I'm going to jump into object mode and let's just recenter this. Let's put it right on the origin since that's where our new plane is going to come in. And let's make sure it's sitting up here. So my pivot for this guy is off. So let's tap the D key, hit the arrow, and then we'll V-snap here. And then tap the D key and we'll grid snap this up. Yeah, I accidentally moved that one down. So if that happens to you, that's all you'll need to do. We've got, right, we're in the positive Z, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 3 and 6. We will create our new plane. We'll come in here and we want 4 and 6. And then we want 8, the number of units, and 12. And then our, right, whenever we have 2, the x will be 0.8. And then on the z, because we have 3, it's 0.867. And so that is the distance we want. We'll drive it down negative 0.8 and hit the 5 key. We'll come back and we'll reverse that. All right, last one, and this is a little bit of a review from the first half of the video. We'll just slide that over. I'll grab my peg. I'll duplicate it. I'm going to grid snap it down. And right, we know that this is 4, so we could even start where we're going to end up. We can duplicate, 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 and then we could do all these together, duplicate. I'll do it in the other direction just to demonstrate. So here we are on the X, and we'll grid snap that over. But note we're still Z forward. We'll grab all those. We'll hit combine. We'll come back, grab all the vertexes, and we'll hit merge. And then we can count 1, 2, 3, 4 edges, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 edges. We've got 8 units by 16 units, so we'll create our plane and we'll match those values. 4 edges, 8 edges, 8 units, 16 units, and so that is matched exactly. And then our scale X is 0.8, right? Whenever we have 2, it's 0.8. And then now that we have 4, this is 0.9. And we've got that there. We know negative 0.8 to drive that down. And if we see, we'll need to reverse that. And so here we are. Now, we can actually do these at the same time. We can grab, and let's do all the interiors. Well, let's do it one at a time, just for practice sake. We'll come and we'll hit extrude, and this is just 4 units. So we'll do all the interior boxes. We'll double click that, it's extrude, and it's 4 units on the Z. Double click that exterior edge, extrude, and we'll put 4. Double click, extrude, 4. And then finally, our 2x3 will extrude and 4. Now the tops would be 4.8. So we'll grab, make sure we get the exterior edge. Right, we've got that exterior edge selected. We'll hit extrude, and this is negative 4.8. And they match exactly. They're the exact same, right? Because we moved down this top 0.8 units, and so this will be 4.8. We'll come and we'll just do that same thing. You could shift select all, but I think it's helpful for us to just watch the process. Double click the edge, extrude, negative 4.8, extrude, negative 4.8, and then finally, all right, now these are all still separate, and right, we've got the exterior and the interior, so we'll grab them both, and we'll hit combine, and then we'll bridge. Now, if you followed exactly, and we have all the exact numbers, you should be able to just double click, shift double click, and bridge. Sometimes that won't work, and you'll have to do the way that we did it in the first half of the video, which is just to bridge pairs. So this pair, shift click, shift double click, and bridge. But try it, see if you can get shift double click and hit bridge and do it all at once. And it should work if you followed exactly. So I'll combine all these. Right, we're just combining two at a time. We wouldn't want to grab them all, then they would be a single mesh. So we just did the interior and exterior. We'll double click each and bridge. Right, we grabbed those, we combined them, they're a single. So we can double click, bridge. And here, right, we got something off. So let me just try that again. Yeah, so that's off. So if that happens to you, we'll just go to the one at a time method. So shift click, shift double click, and bridge, shift click, and oops, sorry, we'll just click, 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 bridge. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I didn't do any double clicking there, and bridge. And this, let's see, bridge, that one got it, and then double click, and bridge. All right, so there are our bricks, but you'll note when we hit the 3 key, let me get into object mode. When we hit the 3 key, those are all soft. So now we have the somewhat laborious process of picking the edges and beveling them. So we'll start with the easy one. We'll grab those edges. The 4 exterior edges, we'll shift double click that, shift double click, and then we have to go around on these. And I didn't want that one, so I'm going to use the control key to deselect, and then we want the diagonals. Hit the 4 key and I'll dolly around there so you can see. And I missed, yeah, I want that edge, and that edge. So there we go. Those are all of the corner edges, including the diagonals. And then we'll come and we'll hit bevel, and our fraction is 0.2, and our segments are 2. And now when we hit the 3 key, we have if we grab both these and hit the 3 key, oops, now I accidentally had something wrong selected. And so I see that there. I didn't want this edge selected. So let me hit that. I'm going to deselect that. Well, let's see. Reselect. Sorry about that. But that might happen to you, and just as I saw, when I went into the 3 mode, I saw that I had this edge selected, which I didn't want to have. It can be hard to see. Try this again. We want that. I think I thought I was selecting that, and I was getting one of these interiors. We'll double click, and double click. All right, take another look. I accidentally had one of the side edges selected. Oh, and I need that one. So hard to see sometimes. We'll hit bevel. We'll type in the 0.2. We'll do our segments to 5 key, and that looks good. So 3 key. And that was a good selection. We've got quads all around. Okay, so let me do this, and we'll try to point out some pitfalls. You could see right there that I'd misselected and I'd selected the wrong thing. So no problem, we'll just make reselections when that happens. And you'll notice when you get the 3 key, when you bevel and then hit the 3 key, you can see if you made a mistake, either selecting something that shouldn't be selected or not selecting something that should. I'll hit the 4 key, and that looks good. We'll hit bevel and 0.2 and 2. And then let's just go, we'll go to this one here. I'll do one more because it's the same exact process. But we'll double click, shift double click, shift double click, shift double click. I'm getting the one all the way around the top. We'll get the 4 corners. We'll get the bottom edge. We'll get the diagonals. The interior corner edge. And with the bigger box, it's actually a little bit easier to see. And then shift double click, shift double click, shift double click, shift double click. And that should be, I missed this. I missed this edge. And that looks right. So we'll hit bevel, we'll input 0.2, segments 2, and we'll hit the 3 key and dolly around, and that looks good. So just making careful selections. If you make a mistake, you miss an edge, or you add an edge that shouldn't be, and I did both on that first one, just undo and remake the selection. There we go. I'll let you finish the remaining 2. Questions in the discussion forum. Have a good one. Greetings. In this section of the video, we will create plates from our existing bricks. The first thing we want to do is jump into the side view, and we want to place these on the ground plane. We can see that the pivot point for all of them is sitting in the middle. So the first thing we'll do is put the pivot at the bottom of the shapes. We can do that all at once. We'll tap the D key, and you can see that I can move all the pivots at once. And we'll just get in here nice and tight, V key, middle mouse button, and snap those to the bottom. Tap the D key to get out. Now they all have the pivot at the bottom. If I just was to grid snap them up now, they'd all snap to the same place. So once again, we'll tap that, Y translate, green arrow, make it yellow. And now when I hold down the X key and the middle mouse button, they just jump up onto the ground plane. A plate is 1/3 the height of a brick. Our bricks are 4.8, so 4.8 divided by 3 is 1.6. We don't have anything sitting here at 1.6 units, so we'll create a cube, and if we look at the cube, we can see that it is exactly 1 unit. So we can use that by coming in and typing in 1.6. So now we have a cube that is the exact height of our brick, of our plate, excuse me. So I want to put this also on the ground plane, so I'll tap the D key and then hold the V key middle mouse button and snap that just to a corner. We'll tap the D key again to get out, and then we'll grid snap this up so it's sitting on the same ground plane, sitting on the same plane as our existing bricks. And then when we come into the 4, we can select all of the vertexes. First, we'll select everything as an object. If I just right click and choose vertex, it'll only show me the vertexes for the selected object. So in the modeling toolkit, I can come up, and when I manually come to vertex here, it does it for all of the objects. Likewise, you could come up to the object mode and just click onto component mode, and they would all come on with our components on. So I'll draw a bounding box around those vertexes, and we just want to snap them to this corner. So I've got my yellow active arrow once more, right? So I'm constrained on the Y. I can just get in here nice and tight and hold the V key and my middle mouse button. I snap to this vertex, which is 1.6 units high, which is the height of our plates. And there we have it. We've created a squashed down brick that is the height of our desired plate. Don't save over the top of your existing bricks. You want to do a save as and just call these your plates. All right, questions in the discussion. Have a good one.